Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'll be talking about my first impressions of playing the new Rework on live, how my experience went this first day, and just kind of talking about everything off the top of my head, just off the cuff here, and just kind of giving my thoughts on things, giving some details and some helpful hints as well, but kind of just going through and giving my first thoughts. I will be doing a mini guide for 10.0.7. If you follow my channel, I do a guide for every patch. So like 10.0, 10.1, 10.2, every major patch. And so I will be doing a mini guide to help people out for these couple months before 10.1. I don't know if I'll get that out this week. That'll be the goal though, to do that this week, because that actually takes, some work and prep and stuff to do that. So that'll be the goal. And I'll try not to get too lost in the muck. I like to get lost in the details sometimes. I'll try not to do that too much in this video, but I kind of just wanted to talk about the rework and how I think it went and how it felt tonight in raid. So again, if you follow the channel, you probably know I'm progressing on Mythic Razagath right now. A lot of people still are. It's a very hard boss overall, and so that's where we are, and so that's what I did tonight. And I ran a pure single target build for tonight. It's the same build you'd find like on Wowhead or whatever. It's pretty much just the best build, especially on the ret side. You do have some optionality with the utility on the Paladin side, but just run the best build, single target, and no cleave at all. No AoE talents whatsoever. We're just progging, like I said. So no point of really trying to pad if I don't need to. If we need damage on ads, then I might have to switch something up. But as of now, I'm just going to run single target. And so I got a lot of practice doing the single target stuff tonight. So I won't be talking much about AoE and stuff tonight. I know some people got to go into some Mythic Pluses. I got to see some people's numbers from that, which seemed really, really good. And, I'm very pumped about that as well. But I'll be mostly talking about single target because that was my experience tonight. So first of all, let's talk about like the overall rework. The defensives are absolutely amazing. Now, some people might argue that we're too tanky. I'm not going to say that because people are going to say I'm calling for nerfs, but we are quite tanky. It also kind of helps that verse becomes like our best stat now after this rework. So that like adds on to the tankiness. I think if my verse was like at 4% or something, I think it would be more in line with like a DK or something like that is, more tanky as far as like a melee class. I don't think it'd feel as powerful if that were the case, but it does feel extremely nice, especially where we're coming from. And I'm really glad, I thought Sanctified Plates might get nerfed. It did. It's 2 talent points now instead of 1. But I'm really happy, and I hope that they keep it at least mostly this way, right? Going forward. I'm not talking about right now. Of course, I hope they keep it that way right now. But even going forward, I hope it stays mostly this way. It's nice to be able to play without fearing of dying all the time. It's just absolutely lovely to play that way. I was having to find places to use my defensives, especially like Shield of Vengeance, because it does damage as well. Because I didn't really need to use it for anything. I was able to survive. Obviously, if you stand in something, you're gonna need to use it. I almost got hit by a breath once, and I used the Shield of Vengeance in case I got hit, and I ended up avoiding that, but. That was a place to use it, I suppose, like if you actually mess up. And I think that's kind of a healthy place to use your defensives. Use your defensives for if you mess up or don't do something, the perfect way. Stand in a mechanic to do more DPS. Those are the ways you should use your defensives. You shouldn't have to use your defensive just to survive ambient damage that 95% of the specs can survive. Maybe all of specs should be able to survive everything to some degree, but this feels nice and tanky. It feels great. If you know the mechanics on Razagath at all, he does like a burst, and then if sparks come out and you have to interrupt them and stuff. I could easily soak probably like a 4 stack of that if I was at full health, without a defensive probably. Not even probably. I mean, I did once do that one. It was a called wipe. And so I wanted to see. I saw a group of people and I ran in with them to see if I could survive it, and I did. It did almost kill me, but I did survive it. And it just felt really good. That's the biggest thing I can say. It felt really good to play without worrying about dying, and my DPS, my confidence was up high because of that, right? And that makes my DPS higher because I'm not worried about dying. And It was really, really good. Let's talk about mobility next. I didn't notice mobility that much, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not running Judgment of Justice. The Blessing of Freedom's nice. One time I noticed it is like on the third knockback on Mythic on Razagath. You get knocked back really far, but you typically just use your own movement speed to get back for that one. And so a lot of times you do a horse into a horse on that one, for example, and horse into freedom actually works quite well. It's not that big of a difference. And you get to save like a charge a horse if you need it for an emergency there. So a little bit of noticement on the freedom there, but not a huge notice on the movement. Obviously having the range was supposed to kind of compensate a little bit for the movement. It's nice to get another global in of like a final verdict as you're getting blown away at range. That is a nice thing. So I can't like hate too bad on that. But yeah, I think they could have definitely done a little bit more with movement. I don't know what, because it's not like horse is bad. It's just it doesn't feel much better than what it did before. And maybe they didn't want it to feel much better, but it doesn't feel much better than it did before. But it does feel better. Your horse lasts longer. You can notice that your horse lasts longer while you're playing. And the freedom can be clutch. You can also put it on somebody else as well, which is also nice. So there are pluses to that as well. The damage, of course, is probably most people's favorite thing. Well, and that's not what we're focusing on with the rework. But we got a huge single target burst of damage. Not burst, because it's more of a consistent damage. But this huge amount of damage baked in. For me personally, my stimulation went up like 19k. And would I say that? Yeah, I would say that was probably close to what my actual DPS and raid went up to, like on phase 1 of Mythic Razagath. It was a huge boon to defense. It helps if you already had a lot of verse, if you have a lot of verse gear, and then you could swap maybe some stuff to verse, because verse is what's scaling so well for us right now. And yeah, the damage was absolutely amazing. It felt really good to see pink at the top of the meter, even after first intermission still being like in the top 5, 6 or whatever, even though I'm full single target build, that was very nice to see. And then we get to go into phase 2, which is single target again, and maybe kind of assert myself into that top part. And at least in everybody's guild, you're gonna have different kill times, you're gonna have different DPS things or whatever, but I think every rat has a chance to be at least in the top DPS in their guild, right? Even if you're not the top in the world, even if you don't do the top parse, I think everybody has a chance to be, one of the top people in their guild. For some guilds harder than others. I have 3 warlocks in my raid. I have 2 beast mastery hunters in my raid, and and so it can be a bit hard depending on your group to be at the top of your damage. But it's definitely nice. It was nice to see my name up near the top for most of the polls tonight, and I messed up a ton. Don't get me wrong, I messed up a ton. I was trying to learn everything myself. And let's talk about that a little bit too. So I think the number one thing people are going to have to learn is just to kind of get the feel of the new playstyle. The biggest change is the Vanguard of Justice, of course, with things costing 4 holy power. Now, the most important thing is, guys, if you're like me, now I wasn't cheating at all when Dusk of Dawn, you had to build the 5 holy power. So I really wasn't cheating very much all of this season. But historically, I am someone who doesn't like to build all the way up to 5 all the time. I like to spend on 4. Sometimes I like to spend on 3 if I know some abilities are coming on to give me some extra holy power. I like to cheat, essentially, and spend early. With this Vanguard of Justice, you really need to be building up to 5 holy power. Not every time, especially in your ES window. What you really want to do is maximize your verdicts and your execution sentence, right? And so that's what you want to be doing most. Obviously, you want to maximize your holy power spent and put it into that. But and if that means spending on 4, sometimes that's what you're going to do. But for the most part, you want to be spending to 5. It just puts you behind too much. And again, I don't want to make this too much of a guide, but something I can say is, like, for your opener, I don't even have the opener up right now, but I can probably guess what the proper opener would be, and it's probably something like I would guess it's something like Judgment, Blade of Justice, the Templar Strike, and then you Wings, Execution Sentence, Spend. You're probably supposed to technically use your Templar Slash before it goes off cooldown, into your divine toll. You can then do another judgment, because if you have at least one thing of High Lord's Judgment, that will put you back at 5. Spend. You could do your blade's probably back up, and then your Hammer of Wrath. But anyways, none of this is important. Again, I'm making it I get too lost in the minutia. But but basically, you need to just get used to spending up to 5 and knowing and getting used to the new number. So Judgment giving you 2 holy power with this talent, so it's giving you 2. Wanting to make sure when you use Templar Strike that you do use the slash, and so knowing that that's going to be 2 holy power that you need to spend, right? Those are very important things. To still use your Hammer of Wrath, even though it's only 1 holy power, because it's extremely strong, you do want to be using your Hammer of Wrath still, and it drops the Blessed Hammers or whatever as well. So you do want to be using your Hammer of Wrath. And all these things need to get through your head. And then, of course, the Execution Sentence itself, on a 30-second cooldown, is a completely different ability. And then with the 4-second extension, you're Execution Sentencing 40% of the fight. And you need to be rolling these things every time they're up. And it's hard to roll them every time they're up if you're spending down to 0. Like if you're at 4 and you spend down to 0 and your Execution Sentence is coming up in 3 seconds, well, guess what? You're not going to get to 5 holy power before that Execution Sentence is ready to go. And so that becomes an issue. Every once in a while, it'll happen where you don't have a blade or a judgment up as your Execution Sentence is coming up, and you can try to spam in 4 Templar Strike, Templar Slash, Templar Strike, Templar Slash, and get up to the amount you need to get to. And that's very unfortunate if that happens. But a lot of time it doesn't happen very often because you get your Blade of Justice resets. And so it doesn't happen super often, but it definitely happens. Where you do have to do that, and that stinks. But it's even worse if you're at 0. So what I just mentioned was basically 4 globals, one of them short, or 2 of them are short, 4 globals to get up to 5 holy power and start your Execution Sentence. But if you're at 0, then all of a sudden you need something else too. Like it just becomes a complete pain in the butt. And so one of the biggest things that helped me out was realizing, okay, I need to roll these Execution Sentences and I need to be ready to go with it each time it's up. And on Mythic Razagath, it's a little bit different because you're getting pushback and stuff, and like you still want to keep rolling them, you still want to keep using them, and just get as many globals in as you can because you just want to keep going. This is it's a mini version of Execution Sentence, kind of. It's actually pretty strong still. It's not even really a mini version. You just get to do it a lot more often. It's literally twice as often, and so you want to make sure this aligns every time. You want to align it with your Wake of Ashes every time. Then you want to align it with your Wings and your Divine Toll every time. And things aren't going to align if you are not rolling it properly every single time. And you don't want to also, you kind of have to, but you don't want to roll it into 0 holy power. Like that feels terrible too. So I think that's a big thing for single target that people can keep in mind. And I'll talk about more about like the actual details, like how I was getting into with the actual button pressing in the guide. But I think that's the biggest thing. And once I got that through my head, everything kind of started to make sense. ES is kind of like what your whole build is built around for your single target, because like all this stuff is passive over here. Most of this stuff is just passive stuff. It's the way we played, except for it's passive. And so Execution Sentence is kind of like what your whole thing's built around. Just like Shadowlands Season 1, it was just a 1-minute cooldown, and everything was a 1-minute cooldown. And so, your Seraphim, your Divine Toll, your Final Reckoning, everything was a 1-minute cooldown. And now it's a 30-second cooldown, and Wake of Ashes is a 30-second cooldown. And, it's just a slight difference, but it's not that bad. Once you get used to it, you'll see really great results. Most people did see great results. Some people were saying they were struggling. And that is why I will do a 10.0.7 guide, is for the people that were struggling. But I felt absolutely amazing. Like I said, I love being near the top of the damage on the damage meter. That felt really, really good. Felt really, really strong. Almost unkillable, frankly. And yeah, I'm having a blast with this. So like I said, I will try to let me think if there's anything else I want to talk about. I mentioned defensives. Trinkets, probably not. Probably save that for the guide. I don't think there's anything else I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to just talk about what a good time I had, and kind of like the thought process of playing this new version of Ret Paladin. Kind of realizing that everything is built around your Execution Sentence now, and you really want to maximize those, and that'll really help with your damage. I promise that. So that's it for this one. I also have other like videos I want to do for just general WoW content. It's hard because I don't have a lot of time, but I like just playing the game and doing non-ret stuff too, so that becomes hard. But I do want to get the ret guide out for the people, who might need a little bit of help or a little bit of explaining. I was able to help somebody tonight in the ret Discord, so that was nice. But yeah, good luck to everyone. I hope everyone else had fun with it too. Hope maybe you have some good stories from your Mythic Pluses or something. I didn't get to do any AoE tonight. Well, I got to AoE in intermission, but I didn't have any AoE talents, so I didn't get to get any fun like that. But maybe you can, if anyone did some AoE stuff, you could let me know in the comments below. But single target was very, very fun tonight. So as always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel because that helps me out a lot. And other than that, everybody have a good one.